There is a saying in Flutter that everything is a widget. We can go a little deeper than that and say a Flutter app is a big tree of widgets, a widget tree. To understand what a widget tree is, we need to understand what a widget is. A widget is a fundamental building block of a Flutter application. It is a blueprint that tells Flutter, and eventually your device, how you want your application to look and behave. This image has 14 widgets in it. The first one is a row widget, then there are 3 column widgets, and each column has an icon widget and a text widget. This is what it looks like with each widget highlighted. There's a whole gigantic library of these widgets, and they can do everything from detecting a touch input to setting your layout, even to navigating within the application. The sheer number of widgets might seem daunting at first, but don't worry. To build basic apps, you won't need to use most of them, and then you can add in more fancy ones as you need them. One of the most used widgets is called Container. It is the most used because it's so flexible. If you are coming from web development, Container is similar to a div element. Every widget that Flutter provides is configurable, and the special thing about Container is that it's one of the most configurable widgets. Configuring a widget means to change something about it. For example, a text widget has a configuration to change the styling, and we do this through a property called style. The app bar has a configuration to change the color using the background color property. And the Container widget I keep talking about is extra configurable. You can do things like this.
Nice.
And this takes a widget that without any configuration would not even be visible to a beautiful blue square with a black border and some text. To build out a full application, you need to take these widgets and organize them in a tree-like structure called a widget tree. That becomes the structure of your whole application. Let's take the previous example with the highlighted row of icons and text. The widget tree for this layout would look something like this. We start with wrapping the whole thing in a container widget, followed by a row where we will put all those icons. Each item in the row will have a column widget, with an icon stacked on top of a text widget that is within another container. And this widget tree is the blueprint used to render our row of icons. This is a very important concept to understand, since this is how your Flutter app is built. You write the code to create this widget tree, and Flutter uses that widget tree as a blueprint to render your application to all these devices. As you develop in Flutter, you will run into problems with state management, or layouts, or some other complex problems. But by understanding this widget tree, you will be able to work through it and eventually solve them. Speaking of complex problems, Flutter has a built-in tool called the Widget Inspector. Whilst you are running your application, you can open the Widget Inspector and see the widget that is currently built. You can also access details of a specific widget when you click on it, and even adjust some layout properties and see them reflected in your application. It's a very powerful tool.